Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, and I am so grateful that you're circling up with me for another inspiring and empowering episode. And you're in for a deep conversation today, one I wish more and more women would have with each other, with themselves. We're going to be talking today about infidelity. And believe it or not, it affects millions, but it's often misunderstood. And that's why I'm excited today to have betrayal expert Lora Cheadle with me, because she's going to reveal why affairs happen even in happy relationships, how discovery can shatter our identity, and I love her transparency, how her own experience led to powerful tools for healing, rebuilding trust, and reclaiming self-worth. Listen, I've been there too, right? I think many of us have. And I think it's time for women to release the shame and self-judgment of when they go through that experience. And so I'm really excited to have this conversation so it gives women permission to heal and rise above that story. A little bit about Lora. Lora Cheadle is an author, TEDx speaker, and leadership wellness coach who specializes in burnout and betrayal recovery. She shows burned out professionals, teams, and organizations how to reframe burnout as betrayal so they can get to the root cause of their symptoms and stay engaged, productive, and happy for the long haul. And her expertise is born from lived experience. When her own husband's infidelity came to light, she faced the choice: remain a victim or become an architect of her own healing. And she chose transformation, my friends. The work she and her husband did to repair their marriage with accountability, integrity, and commitment became the foundation for her approach to betrayal recovery. Lora is also licensed to practice law in California and Colorado, is trauma-informed life coach, certified clinical hypnotherapist, somatic attachment therapist, advanced integrated energy therapist, and holds certificates to teach yoga, group fitness, and personal training. And I wanted to bring that part into the conversation because the depth of her work with women and individuals, we're going to dive into more about that in a moment. Welcome, Lora.
Thank you. I too am looking forward to this conversation because it's one that needs to be had.
Yeah, Laura and I were talking privately before we jumped on, and I was saying, whoa, does this conversation need to be brought to the forefront? Because, ladies, whether you've been betrayed, know a friend, sister, family member, I think we all know or have experienced betrayal in our own lives. And what we were talking about off air is so many of us, and I've been there, I was betrayed many years ago. And I remember it's like, I don't want anyone to know because then they'll know something must be wrong with me. That was the story I took on. And then I realized, oh my goodness, after meeting Laura, I'm like, how many other women think that? Or even men. But for today, we're going to focus on women because that's who's in my circle. So, Laura, oh, I know you went through it personally. So I think we should start there because showing that you know from personal experience the
Yeah.
pain, the healing that happens. Take us back to that time, my friend.
Yeah, it was really horrific. I had been married, my husband and I at the time had been married for 23 years, and our youngest was just about to go away to college. So it was like, yay, it's back to being us. This is going to be amazing. And I really thought we had had a strong, healthy, happy relationship. And it was then over about a 6-month period of time where the house of cards began to fall. And I learned that he had been cheating on me for 15 years with 5 different women. And
Mm,
oh, yeah, I cannot even put words around the level of shock and confusion because that's not who he was. That's not who we were. And essentially, that was our whole kid's childhood.
yeah.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. And I know this is going a little deep, but it just came through me. We think infidelity is, oh, they met someone and they just fell in love, or maybe they were searching for needs, but this was deeper. This was
Oh,
5
yeah.
different people. So that is, how do you put a container on that?
It's
How did you
challenging.
put a container around?
Yeah, it's challenging and it takes a lot of time because like you said earlier, I instantly knew something was wrong with me. I wasn't pretty enough, I wasn't smart enough, I wasn't a good enough wife or mom, like, I instantly internalized it as my own failure, and it took some time for me to realize this actually had nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me at all. This didn't even have anything to do with the marriage. This had to do with him. And
Yeah.
he had a problem and he needed to address that problem. It wasn't about me and it wasn't the marriage.
Ooh, I love that because that moment that awareness came in must have been so freeing to you.
Yes. Yes, and it was very freeing, but it was also terrifying because it put me in that space of realizing I truly don't have control over things. If this was my fault, that means I would have control over it going forward and I could prevent it. So, on the one hand, yes, it wasn't about me. On the other hand, whoa, I don't have control over anything. And that feels terrifying.
Yeah, because you didn't know if he would take the action needed to heal and transform. So that had to be a very vulnerable feeling. Because if it was you, you could say, yes, I'm all in on my healing, but
Yes.
you couldn't say that for the other person. None of us can. But that
Mhm.
I can feel it in my body. That's a vulnerable feeling.
Yeah, it's really vulnerable. And, at the same time, I also had this sense that there was something deeper going on. It wasn't just about the surface level betrayal. It wasn't, like you said, about falling in love or sex. Something was going on. This was like a soul level thing. And I became very determined to figure that out.
So did you want to become determined to figure it out to help him heal, or because that's how you could feel, you could understand it on a deeper level?
Honestly, a little bit of both. Early on, I was still in that phase where I thought, I can inspire him to heal. I can do this. So I'm not going to lie, early on, I did try to control the outcome. Now, I quickly got over that. And that's when it really fully went into, you know what? This is about me. This is a catalyst for my growth and for my healing. And whatever he chooses to do or not to do, I really need to get to the place where it doesn't matter. I can have a preference, but I know I'm in charge of me and I am taking care of myself with or without him.
And I think women need to hear that, right?
Yeah.
Because I just got off a powerful conversation with one of my groups, and one of the women said, I feel like I have to fix everything in my family, that I'm losing myself.
Yeah.
And when we don't serve anyone when we give away our worth, our power, our truth, and our inner peace to someone else. Because truth is, we can't do the work for them.
Mhm.
So it was that moment. It had to bring you back to center when you had that realization too that you couldn't do this for him.
Right. Right. And that I love how you mentioned that, and you had just had this conversation too, because I think women, we're conditioned to manage everybody's emotions. We're conditioned to clean up messes. We're conditioned to make it okay. And it really does set you back on your heels to realize, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm losing power when I do that. I'm giving away pieces of myself. In essence, I am betraying myself. And
All
I
right.
can no longer do that.
Yes, that was the insight the client on the group call just had. I said, listen, I said, this is going to be hard to hear, and I would love your thoughts on this. I said, no one is taking your power from you. You are giving it to them.
Yes.
And she went, oh, she knew it to be true. No one can
Yes.
take something from us. We've forgotten something within us. And as you said, a lot of it is programming as women, right? From a young age to give up ourselves for everyone else. And she
Yes.
really sat with that. And what was beautiful was her 20-year-old daughter was on the call.
Oh,
And she goes, I want to end this so she don't pick up the mantle that I've been carrying for 50 years of giving myself
yeah.
over to other people. So ladies, there's layers to this conversation today. Yes, we might be talking about infidelity and betrayal, but how about betrayal of yourself, as Laura just said? How many of us are betraying ourselves, our dreams, our hopes, our way we allow people to treat us? So I want you to stay here for this full episode because I have a feeling we're going deep, girls. And we're going to take our first break. When we come back with Lora Cheadle, we're going to dive even deeper into this conversation. And I want to invite you to swing on over to her website, lauracheadle.com. The link is in every platform show notes that you may be listening to. And check out her books called Flaunt. And the other one is It's Not Burnout, It's Betrayal. 5 Tools to Fuel Up and Thrive. We'll be back in a moment, my friend.
Are you ready to reinvent your life on your terms? Midlife women, it's time to get off autopilot and co-create your dream life. Midlife Transformation Guides Beth Myers and Kim Gore are passionate about guiding women to discover adventure in their own lives and to become deliberate co-creators of their dreams using mindset, belief and energy clearing, and compassionate guidance and coaching. They know firsthand what it takes to transform your life from surviving to thriving because they've done it. Today, their dream life consists of being full-time travelers in their rolling home and exploring, connecting, speaking, and creating sacred community gatherings with other lightworkers around the country, both in person and virtually. Midlife women, if you're ready to release your limiting stories, reclaim your inner light, and rediscover the joy within, visit you2canthrive.com. That's the letter U and the number 2, canthrive.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, and with me today is TEDx speaker, author, all around extraordinary woman, Lora Cheadle, and we're talking about some deep stuff today. We're talking about how betrayal in relationships can cause deep wounds, but also we touched a little bit on self-betrayal. So, Laura, because of that determination to get to the root cause of all this, is that what led you into the specialty work that you're doing? You have a podcast about betrayal and all that. Is that what kind of redirected you or added to the work that you do in the world?
Yes, absolutely. It was such an awakening on so many different levels. It was the quickest pathway to growth and transformation, but it also allowed me to see so many things so clearly and how sometimes we spent years really focusing on the wrong issue or focusing on things that were outside of us when really, ultimately, what was going on is we were abandoning and betraying ourselves. So, yes, this informed everything that I believed, thought, did, and it absolutely created this new line of work for me.
So I'm curious. So we understand the direction he went. When you finally found your footing again,
Yes.
what would you say? Because it sounds like in many ways, unless I'm hearing it wrong, there was also blessings in this because did this bring up a level of healing that you didn't know you needed?
Yes, and that was the thing. That was the thing that was so interesting about it. I knew my husband came from a highly traumatic background. Like, I knew that. I knew he probably had deeper issues. I knew that he had never done any work. I knew that. But in my mind, I kind of had this belief about me, not that I was perfect, but that I had done all the work. I was spiritual, I was connected, I did things right, so I didn't really think there was anything wrong with me. And there was that tension between I didn't cause the affairs and how is this a mirror to some of my shadows that I'm not seeing? And what it brought up for me was both a tendency to be a bit of a perfectionist, but I think most importantly, it shed light on the fact that I was performing life. I wasn't really present. I was performing, I was succeeding, I was checking all the boxes, and I was doing all the things, but I wasn't deeply being.
Ooh,
Yeah.
think about that, ladies. How many of us, I was stuck in that, especially in my 30s and 40s. It's almost like we put a protective persona. It's almost like I can visually see us pulling a costume over our head, covering our complete self, because we show up the way we think we must, have to, or to get what we think is validation. But really, all we're doing is keeping out our light, right? We can't perform I mean, we can't be when we're in that performance level. It's exhausting too, isn't it, Laura?
It is, and I was so deep that at the time, if somebody would have said to me, "You're masking, you're performing," I would have been like, "No, this is just me. I just like to be an overachiever. I just like things this way." I didn't really see that I was doing it because it made me feel safe, because I thought that's how I would get love, that's how I would be worthy.
I think a lot of women can relate to that statement right there, right? And it all does come to self-worth, huh?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
really does. My own work, when I look back, and I'm now 64, so I have a lot of looking back to do, girl. So, when I look back all those times, I can see the times in my life where, as you said, I was in that performance vibe. And really, when I look back at those years, I had lost myself. I didn't know who I was. When you perform so long,
Yeah.
you have no idea who you are. It's kind of like I use this story a lot. Remember Julia Roberts and Richard Gere, Runaway Bride?
Yes.
There was a scene that I stopped bawling, and my honey, I've been with him 30 years now, over 30 years. Um, it was the egg scene. And he goes, "What do
Mhm.
you mean you don't like what kind of eggs?" And she said, "Oh, I just eat whatever they like." He goes, "You have to know what kind of eggs you like." But really, she just became what everyone expected of her. I was bawling because I didn't know what kind of eggs. I didn't even know what kind of restaurants I wanted to go to because I always performed to give them what they need. Whether that was the relationship in my life or a family member, that was a big wake up call for me to go, what do you like, Linda? What lights you up? Did you go
Yeah.
through that too as you were uncovering?
Yes, I did because I thought I was just compliant. I thought I was just go with the flow. And that's part of the for me, like the spirituality piece. Oh, I don't get angry. I don't get ruffled. I just can go with the flow. And it was like, no, you're not really going with the flow, Laura. You are just conforming. You are just pleasing people. You are just not rocking the boat. You are not allowing yourself to have needs, and it's okay for you to have needs.
Yeah. For me too, it was what you just said is For me, it was like an energetic disconnect. Like I thought it was wrong to be angry. I
Yes.
thought it was wrong to say, if someone said, "Oh, you want to go out to eat? We'll go here." And I'd go, "Okay," even though inside I'm like, "I do not want Italian." I would just go, "Okay." And then I would pick up my food instead of going, "Oh, you know what, babe? I'm really not in the mood for Italian today. Could we try Thai food?" Why couldn't
Right.
I do that? I don't get why we as women think it's noble to sacrifice ourselves.
Yes. Yes. And I definitely did feel pride sometimes in my martyrdom. And it was one of those things that it wasn't until I had, like you said it earlier, the blessing of this journey to really start looking at myself and the messages that I had absorbed and the ways that I was behaving to go, oh my goodness, this is really wonky. It's okay for me to have needs. It's okay for me to speak up. It's okay for me to make somebody mad. People can manage their own feelings. That is not my job.
Yeah. It's a big thing. We can recognize it once we, I guess you can say, awaken to the truth. We can recognize it, but then it requires action, right? To do the
Yes.
inner work to change the pattern. And
And
what was your first step, do you think, when you recognize your own pattern separate from your husband's infidelity? What did you personally do to start to shift that inner storyteller, is what I call it? We all have an inner storyteller.
yeah, we do. I did the reason I think that I have so many certifications and teach and work with so many different modalities is I really fully believe that it's a multifaceted, integrative approach. For me, I need to move my body. I need to journal. I need to externally process by talking. I need to read and absorb. I need to have practices. I need to role play. There's like so many things that I need to do. I need to, work with my crystals and work with my energy and I just started doing all of the things kind of in a haphazard way, but more in an intuitive way. Do I need to walk in nature right now? Yeah, that sounds really, really good. Do I need to sit in a bath with Epsom salts right now? Yeah, that sounds really, really good. Do I just need to hold my rock and sniff essential oils? Yeah, that feels really, really good. I just listened to myself and would ask, what do I need right now that will help me show up differently? Because I don't want to go back to the life I had. I want to create the kind of life that I've always wanted, but that I've been kind of frustrated because I didn't know how to get.
Yeah. Something you said too about giving yourself what you need. When I was healing, um, many years ago, I was always in my head because I was disconnected from my body, right?
Mhm.
From my childhood stuff. And now I ask myself, I speak to my soul, my higher version, and I go, what do you need today? And like you said, it was so funny. We use the same words. Sometimes I'm looking out at the nature trail that abuts our home. We have a conservation area that abuts our home here, and I'm in the middle of the woods on the water. Sometimes
Mm.
it's go for a walk, call a friend. I do the same thing when I for food now. Instead of like,
Yeah.
we randomly just go grab something just to fill a hole. I ask now, what do you need right now to feel nourished? Sometimes it's
Yeah.
water. But I think women become disconnected from those conversations with themselves.
Agreed, agreed, and it takes a certain amount of courage to do things differently, to risk, quote, unquote, "offending" someone by letting them manage their own feelings or feel their own feelings, and the thing is when you just go slow, I think it tends to be easier because we say no when the world doesn't shut down, and we're like, "Oh, I'm allowed to do that?" And then we can do something else again, and then it's that same experience. "Oh, there was less pushback there than I thought," or "I did experience some pushback, but I could manage it. I could breathe through it. I could remain connected and still hold a boundary."
Yeah. And I think it takes practice though, right? Like I know for me it did anyway. And
Yes.
I think we're always still practicing in some
Yes.
ways, no matter how long we've been doing it, because life is always offering up new experiences to kind of like test our commitment to being instead of performing.
Mhm.
Like, are you
I
present here? Are you here in this moment, Linda, or are you not? What are your thoughts on that?
I totally agree. I practice and also I really, really think we need the insight of somebody outside of us to lovingly call us in to who we want to be. Because we can justify anything to ourselves, can't we?
Oh,
I
yeah.
can I can justify that what would nourish my body the most right now is brownies and ice cream. Like I can justify anything. So the practice, but also having those people around us who can lovingly remind us of who we are, speak truth into us, pour into us to help keep us on track.
Oh, most definitely. I think my biggest growth has come from whether it was coaching containers, therapy containers, masterminds. We can we can rise faster and higher when
Yeah,
we have that support.
always.
And especially for something as deep as this topic, right? We need to allow ourselves that support.
Yes. And you just hit the nail on the head. Allow ourselves that support. I think so often the higher the achiever, the more like spiritually connected, we're like, I can do it on my own. And it's like, yes, and.
Yes, and is right. It's the and that matters.
Yeah, yeah.
I think this is beautiful. This is such a powerful conversation. And ladies, again, we're going to take a quick break, but I want you to go over to lauracheadle.com. Check out the book Flaunt, Drop Your Cover and Reveal Your Smart, Sexy, and Spiritual Self. And her other book, It's Not Burnout, It's Betrayal, as well as her podcast and other offerings. Get on over there because you don't have to do this alone, my friends. So we'll be right back.
Wellness isn't a trend, it's a return to what's always been true. Sherry Hone is a sought after holistic healer, energy practitioner, and founder of Illuminate Your Potentials. She intuitively reads the signals your body sends, like fatigue, brain fog, or hormonal shifts, and traces them back to the emotional, energetic, and lifestyle patterns that help you understand yourself more deeply. With over 35 years of experience bridging science and spirit, she helps women uncover the hidden beliefs, emotional imprints, and ancestral patterns that shape their lives. Through her integrative, soul-centered work, programs, and offerings, Sherry guides women to remember who they are and live from that truth. Step into one of Sherry's guided spaces, including the Journey membership, Illuminate, a 4-month private mentorship for energetic recalibration and more. Book your complimentary discovery call at sherryhone.com.
You're listening to Inspired Conversations. Thanks for circling up with myself and Lora Cheadle. We're having a deep conversation here about betrayal, infidelity, but also the deep inner work that we as women can do to not take on the stories and the martyrdom of thinking it is all on us. So something I wanna switch gears a little bit on this segment because I want to talk about, I'm sure any woman that is listening that's ever been betrayed has some of these questions. So so many people think that affairs are about sex or dissatisfaction, but you've discovered they're driven by deeper emotional needs. So what's really going on beneath the surface when someone cheats, Laura?
Yeah. When somebody cheats, they are deeply dissatisfied with themselves. And even more so, they are so deeply satisfied in a way that they can't even understand that sometimes they don't even have words for what it is they're experiencing. It's a self sense of hopelessness. It's a sense of, I need to do anything. I need to reach out and just make myself feel alive again, but not in that, ooh, I'm going to feel alive by having sex with people, in a very deep, dark, depressive, I need to remember that I am a human sort of way. People who cheat are really in pain.
Yeah. And they don't really, I think they haven't healed, just from my experience, I can't speak for everyone, they haven't healed the pain that I believe most picked up from childhood on. any
Yes.
traumas, etc. So it's almost like that child part of them is trying to recreate what they didn't have in the core relationships that they needed as a child. Did that come up at all in your work with people?
Yes, absolutely. It is that primal wound, and it is trying to address that primal wound. And interestingly, sometimes it takes them being in a stable relationship to be safe enough to finally experience the pain of that primal wound. And that is why so many of the people that I work with will say, but we had a good relationship. And it's like, yes, you did have a good relationship, and the safety and the health of that relationship allowed him to touch this deeper pain, which then allowed him to go do this and experience it as a quest for healing.
Yeah, so their quest for healing because of the past triggers, trauma, and unmet needs, the quest for healing went in the wrong direction instead of the elevated direction.
Yes. Yes. And that's the thing. There are not everybody with a core wound, we all have core wounds, but not
Yeah.
anybody with this deep, dark past goes and cheats. There are adaptive ways of doing this healing, and there are maladaptive ways of doing this healing. And cheating is just another maladaptive coping mechanism. It's like drinking or gambling or drug use or video game addiction. It's another maladaptive coping mechanism. But the point is, it's about them, it's not about you. And so often women are saying things like, "Why weren't you thinking about me? How could you not have thought about me?" Well, because it's not about you, it's about me and my pain. That's why I didn't think about you.
Ooh, that hits, doesn't it, ladies?
Yeah,
That's powerful.
yeah.
So you talk about in your work about validation, escape, and identity struggles as key drivers of infidelity. And you kind of touched a little bit on it just now.
Yes.
But can you unpack how those emotional needs lead someone to cross the line? Like what happens? What triggers that in them?
Yeah. Using my situation as an example. My husband was legitimately abandoned as a child. He went through foster care. He had experienced extreme poverty, all of that. So he was hyper alert. He was always hyper alert for things that were going to hurt him. So things that happened in our marriage that were negative, obviously he saw as a threat. But what I didn't realize at the time was things that were positive, he would also see as threats because his worldview was nothing good ever lasts. He had been evicted something like 19 times. Of course, nothing good ever lasts. So he had this extreme fear, this extreme need. But then, since he was always the poor kid, he needed to be validated. And it's like when your best friend tells you, "You look great." You're like, "Yeah, I don't believe it as much as when a stranger tells me, 'Yeah, you look great.'" So the validation that meant more to him was the validation of strangers because they didn't know him. They didn't already love him. So it became
Yeah.
this, yeah, deep, dark cycle that makes sense when you can zoom out and look at it, but in the moment is completely confusing.
Yeah, very confusing. But as you're speaking, I can kind of put myself in his wounds, right?
Right.
And go, he was trying to get his unmet the unmet parts of himself from childhood. Like you said, even though he had this wonderful marriage, his script in the back, that child was going, oh, this is going to be gone too. So what do? They self-sabotage in a way. But they
Absolutely.
believed it was going to be taken anyway because everything had always been taken from them.
Right. Right. And you hit the nail on the head. It is self-sabotage. And we're still together for the record. It's been 8 years since this has all come out, but it's interesting as he has changed, as I have changed the conversations that we have in everyday life where he will now address like this is making me really nervous. And it's like it's making you really nervous that I said I would go to Costco? What why would that make you nervous? And just hearing the story in his head versus the story in my head. It's not that you are so incapable, I have to go to Costco. I was just offering because it was on my way home.
Oh, I see. So his inner script was saying, she must not think I'm capable, which you
Ah,
can't change. We can't change anyone's inner
no.
script. But by opening the conversations to a deeper level between the two of you, which it sounds like you have, he's able to tell you what he's thinking in the moment so that he can process it. Is that what I heard?
Yes, yes. And even on the flip side of that too, when there are moments where I'm like, "No, I actually don't think you're capable of this because you've disappointed me in the past." It can be an honest conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, you're actually right there. I've been disappointed before and I don't want to set myself up for failure. Oh, I'm sorry. Now we can address this. It's a whole, again, it goes beyond the performance of performing the happy couple or just having a transactional marriage. And it's really getting to each other's soul and wounds with care and respect and curiosity.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. So, because I can remember, and I know I was a lot younger, but I can remember deciding, as you did, to move on with someone. I think I was in my 20s after he had done something. But I got to tell you, I chose to move on, and when I look back now, I'm like, I was still pissed.
Yeah.
And my energy, like I'm just being honest, I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna stay and I'm gonna make you suffer. Like that
Yes.
was my Scorpio 25-year-old. And I look back now and go, I knew I shouldn't have stayed, not because of what had done. That wouldn't have been the reason. But I knew at that time and stage in my life that I wasn't truly capable of forgiving him. And
Mhm.
and why stay if you can't truly forgive? Because then it just creates a cycle. Did you go through that part of doubting if you could forgive? Is that a normal
Yes.
part of the cycle?
I think it's all normal. Grief, rage, being pissed, being vindictive, like then also being hyper fawning and loving. It is all normal. And I went through it all. And it's normal because we're exploring all facets of the way that this wounded us. And until we touch on all those emotions and touch on all those facets, I think then we are stuck. And as far as that forgiveness, I, for a long time, didn't even think I wanted to forgive him. I wanted to remember that he did this to me. I didn't want to forget. And then I came to this realization for me, we it might be different for the listeners, but all of a sudden I thought, wait a minute, who am I even to forgive? I am not God. I am not holier than thou. I am not source. We are equal, loved, divine children of the universe, and we're here for this experience. And it was co-created. Whether, you believe it was co-created pre-birth, whether you believe it was co-created in the moment, whatever it was, there is nothing over me to forgive him, and there is nothing over him to forgive me. We are in this, and my job is to find acceptance and understanding. And my job really isn't even necessarily to forgive because, in truth, there's nothing to forgive.
Yeah, I love that version because it's how I live my life too. I believe every experience, even the ones that are messy, health, all of it,
Yeah,
um, is there to bring us to the highest level of ourselves. And if when in relationship, whether it's family, friends, etc., the highest level of that relationship. And
right.
sometimes that means the muck got to get cleared, and the muck between you guys sounded like it was ready to rise to the surface and clear. And
Yes.
I will check in. How did you and your husband during that time? It was at a critical time too. Here was this new chapter unfolding, and your son going off to college. How did you guys process that?
Slowly and
Yeah.
messily.
Yeah,
Ye-
I remember those times. So
ye-
thank you for your honesty because I wanted to bring that in since it's how we started the conversation. That was it going to be in your mind's eye this beautiful new chapter, and it got
Right.
messy.
Yeah,
And
it
that's
got
life,
really
isn't
messy.
it?
Yes, yes, and we just had to really let go of expectations. We had to just be with what was. We had to slow down and take the time to have conversations, to cry, to be held, to hold the other. We had to do all of the stuff in the moment that really wasn't part of a plan, and we just truly had to move into a mode of complete surrender. And at the same time, yes, we were in complete surrender, but we were also reaching out. We were getting help. We were reading. We started reading Course in Miracles. We started, working with different people. We kept experimenting and trying and moving forward and then just releasing and being with what was.
Yeah, that's beautiful. We're going to take a final break, my friends, and we'll be back with Lora Cheadle. Again, visit her at loracheadle.com. Learn more about this topic, her offerings, and so much more. You don't have to walk the path alone, my friends. We'll be right back.
There is a softer way to live. In a world that moves fast and asks us to do the same, it takes courage to slow down, to pause, to breathe, to remember your natural rhythm. Jessica Bain Robert is a professor of mindfulness at Clark University and the founder of the Burnout Retreat in central Massachusetts. With over 20 years of experience, she has honed her gifts to become a transformational mindfulness coach, sound healer, forest bathing guide, NLP coach, writer, and speaker. Through online offerings and in-person sound baths, workshops, and retreats, she supports women in navigating transition, reconnecting with their inner wisdom, and creating lives fueled by clarity, purpose, and peace. Download your Mindful Awakening, guided visualizations, and journal prompts for daily peace and clarity gift set at jessicabainrobert.com and learn more about Jessica's soulful offerings.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Linda Joy, and with me today is Lora Cheadle, and we're talking about betrayal, healing, transformation, and so much more. So, you say that betrayal often leaves people feeling like their entire reality, and you just gave us a taste of that, right?
Mhm.
Has been shattered, even beyond the relationship itself. Tell me what you mean by that.
I mean, who I am. If I have trusted this person and they betrayed me, I must not be very smart. I must not be very intuitive. I must have a bad picker. I must have done something wrong. So, all of these beliefs that we have about ourselves that I'm good, that if I treat others lovingly, they'll treat me lovingly. Even just the basic belief that life always works out in the end, that karma balances itself. Like, we have this belief that we're doing the right things for the right reason, and all of a sudden that entire reality is questioned and we're like, what do you mean bad things can happen to good people? I must be wrong. And we truly think everything about ourselves is wrong or broken.
Mm, I think that's the first place I would go to. It
Mhm.
must be me.
Yeah.
I think a lot of women do that, don't they?
Yes. Yeah. Why didn't I know? Why didn't I see? Why didn't I ask the questions? Why?
You know, and a lot of times we don't have the answers. We're not going to get the answers.
No.
And so you've also shared in your work that a lot of couples unconsciously and unintentionally handle infidelity the wrong way. So, what have you seen are some of the biggest mistakes they make after an affair is revealed?
Yeah, I love therapy. This is not bashing therapy, but I think the worst mistake people make is they assume it's a couple's problem, so they go to marriage counseling. And like I said earlier, it's just not a marriage issue. Could the marriage use some work? Absolutely. Could you learn new communication skills? Can you unpack things? Yes, but infidelity is not a marriage problem. Infidelity is about him and his problem and his reason and his wounding, and it's about what it's uncovering for you. And truly, the first place to go, the most powerful way to heal is for each of you to do your own work before you ever address the marriage.
Ooh. I like that. And I believe too, I'm not one for marriage counseling. I think it's deep inner work for two individuals that have to work on themselves to be the
Yes.
highest version of themselves. And you don't have to wait for a problem to occur in your life to talk with a therapist or a spiritual healer or anything. It's like we go to medical doctors to
Yes.
maintain our physical health. Why wouldn't we go for emotional and spiritual support too to help us be that highest version? But there's so much stigma around it. And but I do believe you're the same thing. I think it's the individuals.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the other mistake people make is not leaning into their anger, their grief, their shame, and just trying to bypass it too quickly. This has truly disrupted your identity. This has crumbled the foundation of who you thought you were and how you thought the world worked. This is big. Scream, cry, rage, grieve. Take all the time that you need to process that because there are no awards for healing more quickly.
You just brought up a memory in that situation years ago. I remember like 2 weeks in, he goes, "You should be over this by now." I swear I had fire come out of my eyes.
Oh, you should
Right?
have.
Yeah, and I'm like, I swear my head spun around. I remember going, "Excuse me? Now you're gonna tell me how I should feel?" But I think it was because it was uncomfortable for him. And we remained dear friends, even though we broke up a year later. We remained dear friends for 40 years before he passed. But I still remember that moment. I see now from the person I am now, it was so uncomfortable for him to hold space for all my emotions that I was feeling. The
Yes.
sadness, the grief, the anger. He must have said, "Oh my God, it's multiple personality," because one day she's grieving, the next moment she's angry at me. I think his projection of me to be over it was because of his uncomfortableness with not knowing what to do with all that information I was giving him.
Yes. And interestingly, that's a twist too. Most people, but especially men, are not comfortable sitting in uncomfortable emotions. Nobody likes it. And
It's true.
yes.
I didn't in my younger years, I would avoid. I was an avoider. And
Yeah.
I would wash it over because I didn't want that confrontation. Now it's like, "Oh, no, I don't want that energy in me. I'm gonna speak
Yes.
my truth with love, always with loving kindness and compassion." But I am no, um, I have to be authentic and intentional in loving. And I think it took me a long time though, Laura, to be
Yes.
comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Many of
And
us,
the
especially girls, we're taught, don't cry, be strong, do this. And so we take on this persona that we shouldn't feel our feelings.
yeah.
And I
Yeah.
know that's not in every home, but I talked to so many women, they could not express themselves fully, all emotions when they were young.
Right.
And I'm
Yeah.
sure it's the same way for men who were raised that way too.
Mhm. Yeah, it is. And then ironically, feeling so uncomfortable with discomfort is yet another reason that men reach out to cheat because they don't know how to manage this discomfort. So they're just going to distract and divert with an affair.
Yeah.
And it brings more of the same.
It's a cycle. So we have
Yes.
like 3 minutes left. So for those who may be in this right now, right? Maybe they're trying to move forward after betrayal. And we're not saying stay or leave, right?
Mm-mm.
What does it really take to rebuild confidence, trust, and a sense of identity? And what do you want them to know in our final 3 minutes together?
I want you to know there is hope. You will get through this. You will have so much joy in your life. Yes, the journey is slow. Yes, the journey is difficult. Yes, it requires trust and faith. Have people around you that know you, that love you, that you can lean on. And you can absolutely do this because you are worthy.
Ooh, there we go, ladies, coming right back to one of my favorite topics, worthiness, right? We have to own our worth within ourselves so that we can be fully present in our own lives and show up in our relationships in the way that we're called to. And Laura, this conversation, girl, could keep on going. So We have another minute. Tell them how they can learn more about you, or if you have anything coming up, please feel led to share.
Yeah. I would love anybody who has experienced, whether it's infidelity or another kind of betrayal, if you go to betrayalrecoveryguide.com, you can download my free betrayal recovery guide. And in it, I incorporate a lot of tools, somatics, journaling, meditation, as well as the spiritual purpose that is really underpinning this journey of betrayal. So, betrayalrecoveryguide.com, it's free and it will really change the way that you look at a betrayal experience, no matter what that betrayal experience is.
I think that's a soulful gift that we can all use right now. So again, that's betrayalrecoveryguide.com, my friends. And her main website is Lora, Lora, Cheadle, Cheadle.com. Laura, this conversation was so needed. I know it's really going to support women in removing the guilt, the shame, if they've lived through this experience, because we take that on so often as women.
Yeah.
And thank you for the work you're doing in the world, my friend. You turned your what was a messy, hard experience into a mission, and now look at what's happening. It's rippling out and supporting so many others.
It is. Thank you so much for having me and for the depth of this conversation. It's about time I think we all got real and vulnerable and said what we mean to say.
Yes. Until next time, my friends, choose love, choose joy, choose happiness. Blessings, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.